Welcome to our first podcast show,
Athena Talks.
Athena Talks. We're starting off. My name's Rachel.
My name is Zoe. And we went to Bryn Mawr College together, hence the Athena Talks, because Athena is a big representation amongst the college. And yeah, here we are today.
Athena represents wisdom. I think it literally means wisdom. This podcast is going to be talking about all things money, investments, real estate. Yeah, sharing our wisdom, sharing our experience as we're actually going through it and, starting on our real estate journeys. And we both have businesses and we're both in investments. So we are wanting to talk about it. And we already meet regularly.
Yep.
So this is kind of just making it more public. Maybe it'll be good for us to look back on too, I think.
So it's like a video journal, and we're happy to, or a podcast journal, and we're here to share that journal with you as we go step by step, like Rachel said. I think this is great. Welcome, and I hope you like the show.
Zoe, she texted me this book that we kind of wanted to preemptively read a little bit and discuss what we're thinking about it. And the book is called
The Millionaire. One second, let me pull up the book just so that we have it on hand here. The Millionaire Real Estate Investor. And my friend Caleb actually was the one who recommended this book for me. I told him I was looking at potentially condos or small single family homes to potentially invest in, and he recommended this book. So we have started reading it, and kind of some of the things we started in. Let's see. You said you read to the myth understandings.
The Myth Understandings, just because I have Kindle and that was like the free sample. So I was seeing whether I was going to invest in the book, and I feel like it's a good book.
It's a good book. Highly recommend. We'll do a little advertising for the the
I know, sponsor us, Gary Keller.
yeah, that's right. But one particular story he talked about was the $100,000 that got away. And what he also kind of said underneath in the small print was that he had been learning about real estate investing for like 10 years. And then this opportunity finally dropped in his lap and he didn't jump on it. And that was a big learning experience for him. So, Rachel, do you have anything to add? Yeah.
Yeah, that definitely stood out for me when as I was reading. And that's kind of like the first things that he's talking about is be an investor. Think about the opportunities, the deals, and these deals, they come and go really fast. So I feel like it's the worst feeling when you're like, oh man, like days later the deal goes away and you're like, that would have been great, I would have made this much, and you regret it. Like that's how I felt with Bitcoin, in 2016 when I could have bought it for $13, and now it's like it's just sad thinking about it. So as we're talking, Zoe's like thinking about this opportunity that came, like she's been looking into, and she actually sent it to me earlier in the week, and it's looking good. The price looks right. I think in our day right now in 2025, like seeing a property in the 100,000s is like not not heard of. At least I'm in California, Zoe's in Oregon. So yeah, you want to speak to like the condo prices and the real estate market?
It's interesting, right? So you're looking at real estate, and there's like a whole demographic of different types of homes. And so right now, I think last year and like the last 3 to 4 years in Portland, right around the COVID pandemic and like worldwide, or not worldwide, nationwide, we've had like a huge rise in real estate right after the COVID pandemic. So everything's shot up, and everyone wanted to buy a home while interest rates were low. However, while interest rates were low, because it was a seller's market, that means the prices of the homes shot up because everybody was trying to buy the home, buy the home, buy the home, which got people, I'm sure people got into bidding wars. I'm sure they did this. And like now they have like a really low interest rate, but they're stuck into a high mortgage for their property. And so last year, Rachel and I were looking at the multifamily market, and it's still really high.
Like even in Oregon, because we were looking at Oregon, we were looking in Colorado, we were looking in Florida, and it's still high. Even there was a bust in Florida, and it's still pretty high.
I think the multifamily is now starting to come down. And what I've been finding on the internet is that single family homes, and my real estate agent was saying the same thing, single family homes in Portland, Oregon are starting to kind of go on the rise. And so the multifamily will drop down a little bit, and I've started to see that already on Zillow. Whether they're selling or not, I haven't looked into that aspect. But condos have kind of been a consistent source of downturn for the last couple of years, even while the market, like it kind of peaked around 2022, 2023, 20, maybe beginning of 2024, and then it started to go down. And last year, the real estate agent that I was chatting with, she basically was saying, oh, the condo market is kind of on the rocks right now. And so looking for a market that is on the rocks versus following the herd and buying where everybody else is buying is a way to kind of bring it back to your price point and your price range. You know, it's different when you have a family and you're trying to buy your first home and you're trying to make all these investments to like start a life with someone, because then you get emotionally attached to that home.
Yeah. This seems like a low emotional attachment home. That's great. I feel like this price range, or how much is it going for now? The time of year is important of when to buy. There's a lot of things to consider. Yeah, and when to list. And this property has been on the market for on Zillow for how long?
200 days. So like since last July, August-ish.
I mean, those are like red flags, right? We're like, 200 days, and then this um condo has HOA fees, which I mean, in considering that it's going to be factored into the monthly rent, it's fine, but that I feel like is important. It's important for you to like definitely go and check, It's not a long distance real estate investment, so that's nice that you could just go over there and see like, okay, are there repairs or like, why hasn't anyone popped on this deal? Because in the book, he's like basically saying when there's a good deal, people take it. They like, get on it.
Within a couple days.
Yeah, so it's like why? Why hasn't anyone taken advantage? But I mean, maybe it's just meant for you.
Right. And, you know, obviously you do your due diligence, and maybe the homeowner is underwater, because a lot of people get scared when their home values drop. Like if he bought the home in, well, let's see, he bought the home in 2023, I believe, was the last time the home was purchased, or the condo was purchased. Give me 1 second. Let me just pull that
Oh,
up.
listed for sale?
So it was sold at 180 at the end of 2022. A lot of people who are buying homes at the height of a bubble or the height of a market are going to kind of freak out when their asset that they thought was going to grow decreases. And so that's why it is potentially a very lucrative deal.
Yeah, he's definitely losing out. Yeah, that's a good point. Like he sold at 2022 at the pretty much COVID time at for 180 at a 4.3 interest rate. And it's been going down consistently for the past it's 2025, so the past 3 years.
Right. And so if his mortgage is going down, he's losing money and he's underwater on the home. And so his mortgage, like say if he wanted to refinance it and get a lower interest rate or a different interest rate, he wouldn't be able to pull cash out of that deal, because the bank is like, no, your home is now worth this and you actually owe us money for, you know, those types of things. And so that can get pretty scary to a homeowner, whether it was for an investment property, which it doesn't look like it was, because it doesn't look like he tried to rent it out. It looks like the person was living there potentially. They rented it out prior to that. So what the person, let's go all the way back in this history and we can just kind of analyze it. If Rachel, is that something you think you want to do?
No, yeah, I feel like this is great. Like we're getting into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, so in 2001 it sold for 99,000. In 2005, that means 4 years later, it went up in equity. It looks like the person put about 55% in equity into the condo. And so it went up to 153,800, which is good for that person. That person probably paid it off slowly after 99, or they didn't pay it off, but they were living there. And then they sold it for about $54,000 more than what they bought. So they got a $54,000 profit, which is almost basically half profit of what they paid for it.
That's good. Yeah, that's what we're hoping for you.
Well, no, and so we're not actually. So there's two types of things that we can hope for when we buy a property, right? You make money when you buy, which is something that he talks about in the book as well, along with are you doing a long-term holding or are you doing a buy and flip? It looks like this person kind of did a buy and flip when they saw that the market went up in 2005. And as you know, in 2008, that's when we had the big market crash and homes crash and all of that stuff crash. But this person kept it through, they bought it in 2005, which I believe was a little bit of a bubble as well. And then it crashed in 2008. And it looks like they tried to rent, but they were probably living there because they held on to it for a while. And then in 2015, 10 years later,
10 years later. I'm like, okay, 10 years later. Wow. So some investment group probably bought that and then so they listed it for rent.
it doesn't have to be an investment group. Individuals can put it for rent as well.
Well, this is Source Hayden Group LLC. I don't know.
Oh, that's just, I think, oh, maybe. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I don't know about that. I'd have to look into that. But yes, maybe they turned it into, because individuals can turn their property into LLCs as well, and then they protect their assets. So it didn't say that it was sold, but maybe it was sold at that point to an individual, or who knows what happened during that time period. It was tried to list it for rent, and it listed for rent a couple of times, and then eventually in 2020 the rent started to go down, but it was listed for rent prior to that at a between, for 1200 and 1300, somewhere around there, which is what someone will be paying in rent at this point in time. So the value hasn't necessarily changed from what it started at, and even though the value of the building or the condo has gone up and down. However, in 2020, when the pandemic hit and less people wanted to live downtown due to the kind of the homeless population and things like that, rent has gone down to kind of, the last time they reported a price change for the rent was at $1,000.
No, I see that 2021 it went all the way down to 1,000. So he started at 1,800 or no 1,400 and then it went down to 1,000 at 2021 and then they removed the listing. They moved from a renter's market to like a seller's market, I guess.
Well, and it looks like they went from the Hayden group to the Garcia group.
Yeah.
And then, so it probably changed hands then, and then it went to the Zillow Network Premium. These are all sources. We don't necessarily know. We'd have to look at the MLS, and we're not real estate agents, so we can't necessarily do that. But I will do that tomorrow when I talk to the real estate agent.
Okay.
And so then it was sold in 2022 for 180, which was a markup from the 153 that we last saw it sold. But we don't know about anything in between there based on the different groups. And then since then, in 2024, that's when condos started to go down last year in particular. And they were already kind of on the rocks prior to that, and around in the end of 2023, I believe. And then 2024, they went down, and this person has dropped the price from 175 to 169. Oops, lost my place here.
It's been like dropping each month pretty much since or well in 2024 it seems like it went from July and then they dropped it 6,000 in August. End of August, they dropped it 10,000.
And what I would guess is that the group that had it probably sold it to an individual. They probably realized that rents were going down and they couldn't, I mean, this is again just trajectory, but or projection or hypothesis, but probably sold it to an individual who then realized they were losing money and they're like, "Oh shit, I can't do anything with this property. I'm losing value." And or they had to move. You never know. So someone's circumstances might be.
Yeah, they could be needing capital. They could be trying to get rid of some of their investments. Who knows?
So the other thing that was really interesting was that in 2022 the price was listed at 188 pending sale, but 391 square feet it was listed at. So, and that's per square footage. So as you see, as you go down, the square footage changes as well. as the price changes. And so that's something that I would be curious about because right now it's listed at 310 square feet, but it's listed on Zillow at 418 square feet. So, what is the actual square footage, and do I need to talk to the realtor about that?
Right, 391 per square foot. So what is it saying that the square footage is? Because we could just calculate that, can't we?
400. Oh, maybe no, I think you're totally right. It's 481 square feet.
Okay.
And the price per square foot is 310. So the price per square foot has gone down bit by bit. Ignore what I said before. I was misunderstanding something. The square foot of the building is not changing, just the price of the square foot. Thank you, Rachel.
For sure, for sure. I'm like, pull out my calculator.
Oh goodness. But the estimated sales range is between 139 and 154. And the rent estimate, which I believe is high for the area, is 1300.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so the price is going for 149 and they've dropped it in 2024. It's gone down 175 to 149. What is that? It's like almost $26,000. So, yeah, when you're going to finally make that deal, I mean, they've dropped it 26,000. So, yeah, if you try to offer 100,000 or less,
I mean, they're losing a significant amount of money. However, if they've
yeah.
been there and they've been paying it off little bit by little bit with a mortgage, depending on who owns it, then getting $90,000 in cash and not waiting for payments to come to them is a very, well, actually, I don't know how that part works. I think they still get a full amount, but it's not, cash is very different than like a home loan, I think.
Cash is a one-off. I mean, that's like a golden silver,
Duck creature that flies.
Yeah, like they're not getting it monthly, they're getting it in full. So that is a good deal. I mean, depending, like you're saying, if they've been paying it off and so they don't have as much to owe back to the bank or whatever.
Right, and we don't know what their down payment was when they initially bought it and all of that stuff. So they may gawk at the offer, but if you never offer, then you never know.
Right. Flood factor minimal, fire factor minimal. It's just the air is a 10 out of 10. You just need to get an air filter.
Oh yeah, I got an air filter. No, we're not worried about the air. Like the air quality in Portland in general is very good, even in downtown. It's just less good in downtown. But it is next to the highway. You know, there is a highway
Yeah.
right behind it, and so it could be loud, but it's in a good college district, which rentability later on for um like a college student, you know, from August to now, which, you know, they also listed it for sale in August, so maybe they couldn't find a renter or who knows. We'll find out the story tomorrow.
Are they renting other units in this build? Because I'm seeing that there's another home here. Because it says similar homes and there's one for 125.
Ooh, okay, okay. Let me look at that. Good job, Rachel.
Because it says homes for you. Isn't that the same building? Cardinal?
It's Jefferson, Southwest. Let's see, scroll nearby homes. Oh, I don't have the 125 one, but
There is a nearby. Maybe you might have to check that one out.
but yeah, there was one that sold at 135 in that building.
In that building? Okay. Wait, how do you find that?
I just scrolled to the bottom.
Okay.
And then so in let's see, so this sold for 135 in what year? In 2024, at the end of 2024. So realistically, and it's a studio as well in the same building. So realistically, you know, they're probably hoping for 135 or 139. And it's a nice looking studio. But the windows in the one that I'm currently,
Can you send me that one?
yeah,
139 they sold?
135.
Okay. If you're giving them cash, it's a different story.
Right. Who knows if that's sold for cash or not? All right, just talking to the real estate agent. 1 second. I think they should be passed on. Great. So we will see it tomorrow. And I'm also seeing another one that's listed for 180, and that one's about 3 blocks from my office. So, very short commute, but again, no parking, and that one has a hot tub and a pool and a lot of other amenities. So, there's other thing, and it's a 1 bedroom, which a 1 bedroom's a little bit easier to rent out potentially than a studio. So, but the space is a little bit funkier in that one, so we'll see.
This is okay. So the book is saying, he was saying that it's $100,000 loss. So I think this would be like a really great, if everything pans out tomorrow, I think this would be a really great first investment. And if you're able to pay it off, through financing from your family, but like within a decent amount of time, like within less than 5 years, I think that's great. Like to start, this is perfect.
Yeah.
It's in a college town, like college student can definitely um like rent this in the future. So
Right. Well, and that's another thing to think about too. Is it going, so if I go in with a low offer of 90 or 100,000, knowing that one sold in the same unit for 135, like let's say that the owner doesn't know that. Let's say the owner's just trying to get rid of it and they're just like, okay, I'm ready to get rid of it because I need to leave town kind of thing. If that's the case and they are just like, okay, great, $100,000 cash offer, and then I relist it for 130 and sell it, I've made a $20,000 profit. So that's one way to go about doing it. However, that's kind of a riskier thing.
right.
But just things to think about. That's what Caleb was telling me in some of his deals. That he
Okay. Oh, you sent me the other one. I kind of want to see the history of the other one. Like, was it on the market for a long time?
Why don't you analyze that one? And no, I mean like just based I mean, tell me what you think.
Yeah, no, that's what I wanted to do. But this one doesn't really have the history, does it?
Let's see. Yeah. Show more. Oh, yeah, this one went for similar.
So sold at 150, so a little bit less. Remove listing, listed for rent for 1,045. And then it was listed for sale for 199. Yeah, that is listed for more. It was sold at 197. Wow.
It has a different history.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. They might be different sides of the building as well.
Right. 2019 listed for sale for 198,000. Price change. So yeah, 2019 it even started going down. Pre-pandemic.
The interesting thing about the Portland market, when I moved here in 2016, the houses were very affordable. Everything was very affordable right before COVID hit. And one thing I do regret doing is not buying a house then, but live and learn, right? And so
See, you're already regretting. This is gonna be.
no, 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 no.
We're not gonna regret this one.
Well, that was a live and learn moment. However, in if you look at the house price on this one in 2016, 2018, it's pretty high for what it was. It's close to like I think it said 190 or 150.
This studio is 192, or yeah, 197. You said 2016 is when you moved out there?
When I moved out to Portland, yes.
Okay.
And so if we look before 2020, it was listed pretty high. So condos might not have been the type of building to buy when I moved out there initially, and like a single family home would have been, but now they've flip-flopped. So that makes condos more affordable and single family homes less affordable. So it's kind of interesting how they've well, 2019, yeah, sold in 2016 for $197,000. And that was right before I moved out there. And so condos were at a high then. And that building, it was only 16 years old at that point. And so, um, had I bought a condo then, I'd probably be underwater now.
Yeah, right.
But if I had bought a single family home, I'd probably be doing pretty well right now.
These are on sale right now. Considering this history and things sold at 190, in 2020 the other studio was sold for 175, and then it was sold again for 160, so they lost 15,000. and then it's just been consistently going down. In 2024, it just was not a good year for condos. Like it was going down. Oh, it seems like in this building at least.
Everybody wants a home out here. Everybody doesn't want to live downtown. They want to kind of live a little bit further out and things like that.
They want more peace considering the environmental factors. But so this was pending sale in October 2024, or was listed for sale October 24th, 2024, and it was sold on in December 6th. So that was only like 2 months. Not even like a month and a half, and it was sold. And this has been on for 200 days. What is that? That's like
It was in August. It was the other one was listed in August.
what's the view for this studio? Let's see.
This studio looks a little bit like it's not been redone.
There's less lighting. Like the windows are huge. Yeah, the windows are huge in your apartment or in your studio.
Find out, right?
In the studio that you're looking into.
I think there has been less. So as you look at the price change, there's also been a little bit of depreciation. And then in 2024, they put money into it at plus 12.5%. Or maybe that was just the pricing, what it's been listed as. Um,
And there's no washer and dryer in this one. Oh, there is, there is, there is, there
there is? Okay, good. That's good. I mean, it's a nice looking unit, like with the TV and the
doesn't really show like what the view is. It looks like the view is like a brick building. Like yeah. Maybe it's not facing like the main street.
I don't know where the bed goes though. Or oh, they had it behind the couch. I see it now. Okay.
Ooh, yeah.
It looks like it has AC
The type of bed that what's it called?
a Murphy bed.
Murphy bed.
No, it just different kind of styles. And so, we have to kind of gauge, well, it'll be interesting. I would be very surprised if the buyer wanted to buy it or sell it at $100,000 cash. I'd be very surprised, but never hurts to ask, right?
Because it might look bad for the whole apartment, like building as a whole. Like if other investors or like look buyers are looking at the apartment and they see that it was sold for 100,000, maybe it might, depreciate the whole building. But who knows? You never know. I mean, what is like the highest you're willing to go and the lowest?
I think 135 is probably the highest I would go. I don't think I would pay 149 for it. Unless
Yeah, like if they sold the other one that looks less appealing.
I mean, they both look good, but they're different. They have different vibes to them.
Yeah. I think it's a good idea. I mean, you're gonna go there. Do you have like your prepared list of questions, or are you gonna just like see how the overall feel, or
I'll see how it feels. I'll have a couple questions, like why are they selling? Um, why do they keep dropping the price down? Are they dropping the price down because they want to, or is it because like what it's been appraised at has been dropping down? um is there anything wrong with it? And the last time I went to look at a condo, the real estate agent was saying like, yeah, you get an inspector to come look at it and list anything, and then that's all a part of negotiations. So once if I like it enough to where I want to buy it, then I put the offer in, and then there can be negotiations. The other thing I would ask is, have there been any other offers? If there's been other offers and the seller has balked at them, then that shows that that they're more set on their price. And so but if there haven't been any offers, then you got to really wonder why, especially if the one next door sold. Which what floor is that one on? Oh, it's on the 5th floor, which makes sense. Higher up is kind of nicer in many ways because it's away from the sounds.
away from the sounds, there's less people. The noise is how many floors are there? One, two, three, four. I think there are five if you're not including the bottom.
You looking at the building itself?
Yeah, just like
Yeah. Oh yeah. So top floor, which is nice, which means people aren't clomping on top of you. I'm on the 5th floor right now, and it's great. So
yeah, I know. That's the one thing from my last apartment that I leased that I realized I value is like people clomp if you, especially if they're heavy walkers, but
Yeah, I'm the clomper right now.
If that doesn't bother you as much, you find your zen in different places.
Yeah, I tell you what, I really don't want to move. I really like where I live. But if it's a good investment opportunity, then I would be dumb not to move. But I would have to break my lease and spend money there as
Oh, would you? Okay. Yeah, we were talking about how I think before we started recording, just about how like it's better right now you're just giving money to this random person who owns your building, but this is going to be a better investment because you're giving to your family. This is a property that you will own. You can eventually sell, have renters, so it's going to give you way more options in the future. So, yeah, it's like there are some downsides to moving, but
if it helps make a better future and opportunity. And so, like, the other thing that I was talking to my parents about is if you start with a condo, eventually, once that's like paid off a certain amount, and then, or if it goes up, you can then sell it and then you can take that and put a down payment on a house. And so, there's like that trading up quality to it as well.
yes, going further, higher and higher. That I feel like that's the hope. That's the hope is that you buy low, you sell high.
Well, and they keep saying you make money when you buy the property, not when you sell it. So if you buy it at a low price, you have a much greater likelihood of making a profit at it than if you buy it at the height of the market. Like the person who bought it for 180,000. That would have been, and like they were hoping that the market would just keep going, but a studio apartment is not going to go, into the 300,000s.
Like what were they thinking? I don't know.
Well, that it's they were thinking low interest rates.
I was texting about that too. I'm like, or I was at least thinking about it, like how we're putting a lot of emphasis on like, oh man, right now the interest rates are like almost hitting 7%, like it's like 6.25, and like, oh, we shouldn't buy, but it's like that's the focus, but we should really be focusing on the price point. Like, okay, since the interest rates are so high, the focus now should be like, okay, I need to find like something really cheap. Back then, they were looking at the interest rates thinking like, oh, I need to get anything because it's so good right now.
Property is skyrocketing, people will then, myself included, I'm like, well, shit, will I ever be able to afford a house? Will I ever be able to, like, my coworker, her and a friend bought a triplex together and they rent out the middle unit and they each live in either unit, but their mortgage is incredibly high, but they have a great interest rate, which means, it'll take them a while to pay it off. However, you know, it's still a large amount of money that they have to pay off.
At the end of the day, it's still a lot of money. Yeah, it's like we're all about getting the low deal. We're trying to make money off of the unit.
And that's the difference between being an investor and being a homeowner and, like, buying a property to live in, which I'm kind of doing a mixture with this property potentially. So, and people do that too. They buy that, like Rachel's friend was just telling us that he buys homes, lives in them, and then rents them out to finish paying off the mortgage.
My like coworker, he buys a home and then he has to like move due to work, and then they end up finding a renter, and then that renter just like lives in the home, and that's how they pay off their mortgages, through like other people renting, and they kind of just move along. So unfortunately it's a studio, like you wouldn't be able to. I mean, there's many other ways. You could do a lot of things. You could do now. It's if you buy it, then it's yours. When you're off, you could potentially get another unit. You know what I'm saying, and then have someone rent in there. So I feel like you should still think about like finding other opportunities once you do get this opportunity, but just so you can say less emotional about it and more as an investor.
Well, and I think the beauty of this property is I don't want to live downtown forever. So it's a, like, okay, I would do what I would have to do in order to, manipulate's a strong word, but in order to get the financing that I would want for the building, there are things that I would have to do in that deal if I were to work with my dad. So, but later on, if that's what gets my foot in the door into owning my first property, and that's one way to do it. The other way to do it, if I did get it for 90,000, there's other home loans that you can get. I mean, maybe it wouldn't be $90,000 cash, but maybe let's say $120,000 with a mortgage at 7%, which is still good, but it might not be very rentable for me. I might be making $50 at that rate.
Once the interest rate goes up, then it affects your rent price significantly. Yeah.
So you have to run the numbers. You have to see if it makes sense. And, the book eventually goes into saying that there are deals out there. You just have to find them. And it takes time to find them. And you have to kind of constantly be looking at them. And, like, you know, Caleb was saying something interesting that, he's like, yeah, like I would already be looking if I could like rent out, if it was a rentable building, like, or a rentable condo, like maybe put a fake listing up for put up a fake listing for the condo before you buy it to see if there would be any interest on it. And then you can see if there's interest for renters in that area. And I was like, that's a good.
That's an interesting, yeah. Is that legal?
Who knows if it's legal? You can kind of really do anything you want to an extent, but I've read business books that have talked about that as well. Like when you're testing a product, you maybe like do a posting on eBay and see what someone would bid for it, and then at the last moment you cancel it. It's not super ethical, and
Yeah.
it's not very nice to the people who are looking to buy the product, but you're testing your market, and it does fulfill a role in that. So I leave that up to the person who wants to try it for their ethicalness in the matter.
I mean, that's kind of like going into like, checking I mean, I would if I were you, I would check all the units in that building and see like how much they're paying for rent. Is it on there? Is it listed? Like see how much they're paying for rent or see how much the unit was sold for, just gauge like all of them.
The HOAs will pretty much be the same for all the units, I think, because they kind of split it evenly. I have a condo in Florida, and we all pay the same amount of. I mean, all the units and in Florida for the condo, it's a timeshare, so it's only 1 week out of the year, but different weeks are valued differently in many ways. But we all pay the same amount for that week. It's a yearly fee. And so while this is a monthly fee, I'm pretty sure, and I can ask this with the real estate agent tomorrow, I'm pretty sure that the and he was telling me this for the last unit that I looked at, is that the HOA fees tend to go up when there's like significant repairs need to be made on the building, which like having a new roof, but the building's only, the building's 25 years old. So at least you know that there's not going to be any significant repairs, hopefully, within, the next 10 or 15 years. But
Yeah.
there could be, and there's not really earthquakes out here in Portland.
Yeah, I was checking to see what the hazard was, and it looked like
It's more fires, and there's not many fires downtown other than started by people.
yeah, fires less likely in the city.
I mean, there's bullet holes too. I had a friend who lived downtown who moved back to Florida because a bullet hole came through her window while she was out of town.
In Oregon?
Yeah, in downtown Portland. So again, people are shying away from downtown Portland, but when people leave out of fear, you go in with greed. And that is kind of when people get greedy, then you kind of back off, right? They say that with the stock market too.
Right now, people don't seem greedy. You're saying when people are greedy, they back off?
No, when people are greedy, you as an investor should back off because that means they're going to be trying to driving it higher and higher and higher and higher. But when people are fearful, that's when you should jump in because that's when no one wants to buy then. Like,
Yeah, it seems like just how these prices are getting cut um each month or in 2024 they were. Yeah, it seems like they're fearful.
and people are generally fearful of downtown or feel fearful of condos because they're like, oh man, well, I need to buy a single family home while it's still low because it might be going higher, it might be going higher, it might be going higher. And like you can feel that vibration of those people in the way that they think, and then you're like, okay, wait, I can't get stuck in that. That's the fear mentality. You have to like separate yourself from the fear mentality and be like, okay, I will be able to afford a single family home at some point in time, but right now is not the time to buy right before it's going to jump up in price.
And because you don't have a family, like You know, that's not a, it's not a, it's, yeah, it's not a factor that you're like, it's eating at you, you know, like, oh, I don't want to live in a condo because like, I don't want to have this life for my family because it's better like that you're single. It's a more appealing that this market, this condo market is more appealing. And it's and a lot of people that are buying are families, you know, so it's like there's a smaller pool of people trying to go for condos, which makes it like better for you, you know, because it's less competitive. But it's less competitive and it's on the decline.
Well, and there have been significant condos being built around the area, but more in the suburbs, or not suburbs, but like away from downtown. There's been a lot more like just like row houses being built that have HOA fees, and they're very low HOA fees, but those are going for anywhere between 250 to 300 and something $1,000, but they're more like, they're not necessarily studios, they're like 2 bedroom, 1 bath houses, or like 3 bed, 2 bath houses kind of thing. And so, but those still have HOA fees, but that almost, people like new things. People want to buy new homes. They want things that are already well, you know, they're going to have less things to pay for if they buy a new home and things like that.
People are fearful of like fees and yeah, repairs and getting nickel and like not nickel and dime, but just, you know, unexpected charges later down the line.
Well, and they want to keep up with the Joneses, is kind of like, oh, my friend's buying a home, I need to buy a home, or they're having a family, I need to have a baby, or like there's kind of that unconscious competition that a lot of these books talk about, and they're like, you don't have to keep up with the Joneses, you don't have to keep up with the Joneses.
That's what literally every book is talking about. Yeah. It even said like one of his friends or in this book that like they tried to live off 50% of their income and you know made $4 billion off like through saving alone from based off of their income. So yeah, it's a matter of reducing your spending and kind of just like not giving into society's hot and flashy, yeah, capitalism, which I feel like I've been falling into, but I'm like out of that now. I've been down this year. It's a year of like downsizing, saving for me personally.
And consumerism, not capitalism, excuse me, but also capitalism. But
Consumerism, I know, over consumerism, and just trying to kind of save enough to first like I mean get I think like foundation. I think in the book he even talks about how like, you know, your 401k, your retirement funds are crucial, but like thinking as an investor, like you need to be looking for deals all the time and just like having capital to look for these deals is like so important. So, yeah, I feel like this is good. This is good. I feel like Zoe's kind of like ahead of me in terms of like she's been ready. She's been ready to buy. So I feel like I'm hopping on her bandwagon of real estate and like she sends me like all these listings all the time. Like she's constantly trying to go out and check things out. So you're really pushing for that. This is a great opportunity. This is the best opportunity that you've sent me so far.
so far, yes, I would agree with that. It's right in the price range, and I think my dad even agrees. I've sent him a bunch of stuff, and I could tell he's like, look lower, look lower, look lower. And this is definitely the lowest one so far. But the condo market really didn't tank until this past winter. It was like it was high, it was in the 180s, and it was higher before this past winter. And it might go down even further this next winter. Hopefully not, but it might also rebound. But let's say if it did. So if I bought it at 149 right now and it went down, then I'd be losing money. So the best option I have is to offer as low as possible and to get as best a deal as I can, because then if it goes down, then I've really not lost as much money. So if I start at 90 versus starting at 135, then there is a much, like, say I bought it for 90, sold it for 110. I've made $20,000 profit. If I bought it for 130 and then sold it at 110, then I've lost money. So you might as well be starting.
I think you need to look at I said 26,000 was how much they've dropped it in the last year. So yeah, I would definitely, in your negotiation be like, yeah, considering the fact that you guys dropped it 26,000 in 1 year, I want to consider that into, this property potentially losing that much value, in 1 year. So, I want to get it for 110.
Right. Well, and I think I will probably start with an all cash offer at 90 if I like it. It's a bit ridiculous. And, my friend Caleb and some of the books that I've read, they said if you're not embarrassed by your offer, you're not offering low enough. And I'd be embarrassed if I'm being honest to offer 90, but it's what's best for me, but it's what's worse for the other person. And so you kind of can't be thinking of the other person in real estate if you want to make money, which is hard for me to do. It's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I would just, yeah, it does. I feel your secondhand embarrassment. I feel that. But just do it. Just do it confidently and just be like, your market is tanking. Be like, you'd be a fool to not take this offer. Take the cash and run. Yeah, you'd be a fool not to take this cash offer right now. Right. You should say stuff like that. Like, make them feel like, oh, make them feel frazzled. Like, oh man, that sounds great. Like, you got to put your $100,000 and make it look like it's 1 million.
Right. Well, and the interesting thing is, so if we're thinking about it from their perspective, if they got $100,000 cash, they could pay off a portion of their mortgage, and they could also probably put a down payment on another home.
They could put a down payment on another home, another condo, whatever. Or, another home, yeah, like a nice home.
Well, they probably shouldn't do it in this market. They should probably rent in this market, but because there's been an increase, I was also just looking on the internet of like people building apartments, and so that's why apartments have gone down, is there's been a surplus of apartments for rent. And so, I'm in a studio, but I could go up easily to a one bedroom and pay like 1250 maybe.
I feel like I've seen that too. Like there's been an increase of building apartments, so that's why you'll see that the apartment rents are gonna be going lower. So, because been the complaint. It's like rent's so high.
So you in your area, they've been building more apartments?
I mean, yeah, I think in my area, at least like in Ventura County, I think they've been building a lot more apartments. So yeah, but the rent is still extremely high. But I think over time though it'll go down. Just looking at the grand scheme, I was thinking about I wanted to mention also how like millennials, we touched on like how millennials, we're like in debt. I feel like we have a lot of like student loans, a lot of credit cards. Like we're trying to kind of scramble money, go in with three, four people to like buy something, to like get some generational wealth. And like just the market, depending where you live, but the market for like, multifamily homes, single family homes are not necessarily looking the best, like in the major hub cities. So it's like you have to kind of branch out. You kind of have to look for other opportunities, look for condos, look for other investment opportunities to kind of get into the real estate like industry. So I just wanted to say that how like it's like $400,000 single family home like doesn't look appealing to like the average millennial. Like $100,000, $200,000 property looks way more appealing. Like it looks more affordable. That's not appealing, is not the word, affordable. Like you don't want to be struggling and stressing with a $2,000 mortgage for 30 years. Like that does not.
It's not appealing. And that's where the tiny homes have also been a big, like a lot of people have been looking at tiny homes, and I've thought about that too, just buying a little plot of land and then popping a tiny home on it. And just like that's one way to go about it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, tiny homes. We were looking at like like barndominiums, the barndominiums, I think. Barndominiums, yeah. Yeah. Even like how Tesla came out with the new RV, like there are a lot of people in the innovative space that are trying to find ways to like build homes that are more affordable and more accessible to like millennials and people that have incomes that,
Don't match their parents.
yeah, that doesn't match their parents, you know, and it's not, we're kind of in the development stage as millennials, so
No, it's interesting times. And I think, like anything, we're a country built on debt. And, I've been, inflation is just, it's going up, right? We can talk about inflation and how it's going to keep going up and keep going up. And the US is going to keep printing money and keep printing money. And then, that brings us to like gold and silver. Those are actual like assets that hold value versus like dollar bills that are just paper. And then you're like, okay, that's a whole other topic for another conversation. But
that is. But I mean, I feel like $100,000 home, like $200,000 home or less, seems less like debt than a less four scary. Less scary. Like you're going in for $400,000 home and up, like that is a lot of debt that you're piling on your back, you know, like that's like paper money. You just poof made in thin air. But like $100,000 seems like something you could work towards paying off, like, and that seems feasible. So it doesn't seem like it's a debt that's out of control, you know, like so it seems like something that is manageable. So I commend you for finding this, and I hope everything goes well tomorrow. In the next episode, we'll have to hear how it went
yeah, absolutely.
and see what the next steps are. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, this has been a great podcast session.
Agreed. This was fun. We did like a solid 55 minutes,
55? Wow.
chatting. Rachel and I can literally talk forever. And so we've continued to do that. And thank you all for listening. And, this was our first podcast, and let us know how you like it.
Yes, comment and subscribe.
All right. Take care. Athena Talks.